Hello, hello, hello. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Come in, come in, come in. This is Tamika Zen. I am Tamika. This is the girl in the picture, y'all. All right, on Netflix. Now, I know if you have been watching my channel, you heard me say that Netflix documentaries, baby, are some of the most intriguing, okay, crazy, gut wrenching, horrific, you know, horrible, disgusting, stomach turning. They will have you all in your emotions, twists, turns. You never know what direction that they are going in, right? Especially like the true crime and things of that nature. And honey, this girl in the picture was no different. All right, my stomach was so upset watching this thing, y'all. So the girl in the picture, let's get into it. All right. Now, it started out with these 2 to 3 guys that's in this truck on this highway seeing something on the side of the highway, like, what is that? Okay. And they pull over and come to find out is this blonde head lady, woman, girl on the side of the road. They call the ambulance. They get her to the hospital. The hospital was like, something ain't right. They see something is fishy right up front. Okay. Now, you would think this is a hit and run, but you also would be like, well, where was she going? You know what I'm saying? Walking on some dark road where anybody could hit her. And she has previous old injuries and old bruises. So they like, no visitors. They don't want nobody coming up in there. And they just trying to figure out what happened to this girl, right? And they have this man that shows up, and the first thing they say, he's claiming to be her husband, Clarence, and he say they got a 2-year-old son, Michael, and they like, this is a weird guy. First impression of him, right? And so, basically they trying to monitor her, and they trying to continue to examine her and see whatever things that they could come up with of this supposed accident, right? And so then we have this other woman talking at the same time, and she says she gets a call from, the husband saying that she was in this hit and run accident, right? And then they call the woman that would be the mother, or that came up as the mother, because they're trying to find some other family members and stuff like that, right? So contact. And so her name was supposed to be Tanya Hughes, according to her husband. So they called the mother of Tanya Hughes. But Tanya Hughes' mother's talking about, well, I don't know why you're calling me. I don't understand what this is about, because my daughter died 20 years ago when she was 18 months old. So they like, well, hold up. Then this ain't her. What's going on here, right? Next red flag. So we meet this dancer, okay, at this club Passions, that apparently used to work with Miss Tanya, and her name is Karen, and they knew each other from Oklahoma back in 1989. They became friends. She said they had different things in common, and she said she had met the husband. He was weird to her too, right? And he was an older gentleman. So the hospital saying weird, she's saying weird. And then she's like, she had this beautiful little 2-year-old boy, Michael, and she said, if she would be like, well, let's take him to the zoo, let's take him here, let's take him there. She apparently didn't have permission to take him anywhere, honey, okay? Clarence always had to be around. So I said, well, wait a minute. The mother couldn't take the child where she wanted to? Okay. Next red flag, right? Michael couldn't go anywhere with her alone. And so, she basically hears about this hit and run, and she was like, I had no idea that she was even going anywhere. She never mentioned nothing to me. And she was like, I know one day Tanya told me that he had a life insurance policy out on her. And then, she was terrified, and she was like, I think she would have run if it was just her. But because she had Michael and he kept her under lock and key, she was like, I really think that's what made her scared. And she said she would notice bruises on her, scrape scars and different stuff like that from time to time. And Tanya would tell her she slipped, she fell. You know the story already, right? And she said it seemed like she was stuck and she didn't have a way to get out. And she was like, she never believed those stories, with the bruises. Okay, she always thought that he was beating on her, but she didn't really have any concrete info to back it up besides her feeling. And so she basically had went up to the hospital one time and got to see her, whatever the case may be. And that's when a nurse had came in and basically was telling her that they thought this was foul play. They did not think that it was anything to do with no daggone hit and run, right? And, you know, she said the scratches and marks and all of that kind of stuff had basically got her attention. It didn't look like something that came from a hit and run, and more so looked like something from a fight. So, you know, she was like, she was in pretty good shape considering you supposed to have been in this auto accident or whatever, right? And her vital signs were stable. But all of a sudden, you know, because even the doctor that was talking was saying it was a mystery to him that she was doing fine, honey, okay? And all of a sudden, flatlining, all right? She got home from the hospital and the hospital was calling her to tell her that she had passed away. So it's like, was something else going on here, right? And so basically, you know, they go ahead to try to do this service for her and they get this tombstone for her. And all they could put on it was Tanya, right? Because at this point, they don't even know what her daggone last name is. They don't know her birth date or anything like that to be able to put it on, right? And at this point, the friend Karen, you know, talks to the hospital because the hospital was asking her about Michael's condition and saying, what does she think he's not talking? And she was like, that's not him. So they gave her information and she went to DHS and said, y'all should put Michael in a foster home. Okay, so they do that. So in 1990, he gets put with this family, right? And the family says that the caseworker had told them that Michael was only drinking Pepsi out of bottles. And so they was like, what? And that if he don't get it, you know, he have a fit. And so when he came to them, he was having that fit, okay? He was banging his head all over the floor. He was carrying on, acting a daggone fool. And they said, oh, no, honey, we not giving you no Pepsi, okay? They took him off the Pepsi, and it took them about a week, but he got used to drinking milk out of a cup. So I said, okay. And they said his behavior got better. They wasn't having no problems with him. The only time they would have a problem with him is when they would tell him he had to go with the damn daddy Clarence. He would be like, that mean man, no, mean man, bad man, that type of thing. Now here he go, Mr. Clarence trying to come up to the court and fight for him or whatever, right? And talking about, y'all don't have no proof that anything happened. Y'all don't have no proof. You know, I haven't been charged with any murder. I've never been charged with abuse. There's no reason that y'all should be keeping a child from his father and da-da-da-da-da, this whole song and dance, right? And they was giving him visitation rights, but he had to stay with the foster family. So now it got to be where this car kept driving around they house or whatever, right? And I don't know why they hadn't did this to begin with, because this was a 4-year period that they had the little boy, okay? And they had got him when he was 2 years old. But for whatever reason, they waited and then did the paternity test. Well, I would have thought that would have been done, and came to find out that he wasn't the father. So they had terminated the visitation altogether. So, you know, the foster mother's calling them like, can you describe him? Can you describe his truck? Because they always went there for the visitations to be monitored. It was never a thing where he was coming to their house or they was coming to his house or any of that. And it was this blue truck that kept driving around the house all the time. And they told them about it, and they gonna tell them, they, you know, once they described him and they was like, yeah, that's him, he's been coming around the house, they gonna tell her she freaking paranoid. So when I tell y'all so many people dropped the damn ball when it came to this whole freaking situation, y'all, is ridiculous, okay? But let's continue, right? And so here come Clarence. He go up to the damn school, y'all, and kidnap the freaking principal, okay? Hold him at gunpoint and tell him he gonna help him get Michael. They end up finding him handcuffed to a damn tree, okay, with freaking tape up, you know, around his mouth and all this other stuff, gagged or whatever the case may be, right? And he done left him there, stole the principal's damn truck, and ran off with Michael, right? So now they got this wide search. They got Michael all over the news. Of course, they trying to hurry up. You know, the FBI gets involved, okay? We have this officer, Joe, who was with FBI, who was the head of the investigation, and he was saying how the first 48 hours is critical. You know, every news outlet, they could put up all the posters and all that different kind of stuff that you would see when somebody is, you know, kidnapped or whatever. And they start to go and search Mr. Clarence records, honey. They pull his file from 1990. Baby, all kind of stuff come up. They find out about the wife's insurance policy. They find out some social security number for a man named Frank Floyd. Now, that's not the name he was using. He's been using Clarence Hughes. So who's Frank Floyd, right? And so they start digging a little bit more, and they find out Frank Floyd has many aliases, baby. So 1 minute, y'all. Frank Floyd had Trenton Davis, okay, as an alias. He had Frank Floyd. He had Clarence Hughes. He had, is another one. It'll come back to me, right? But he has several aliases. Y'all get on the point, right? He was changing his names, okay? Like people change their damn underwear. And so they like, okay, just trying to keep gathering this information and saying, well, when a person has so many different aliases that they've used, they will usually end up using one of them again. So this might be a way where they could get him. He had Warren Marshall and he had Trent Davis, right? And so they also found out that he was in a halfway house before. So they like, okay, if he was in a halfway house, then he was in a prison. So they pull up the criminal record. Baby, this damn man had been indicted on so many different charges. He had actually kidnapped a freaking little girl before. He was released from the warehouse in 1972. He attacked another female in 1973. He was arrested and posted bail, and then basically failed to appear in court. So you got this man on the run ever since, which means he was on the run for almost 2 freaking decades, y'all. Okay? And with all this information together, they say, damn, this is a real problem, okay? This man is a known pedophile. He's been in the freaking prisons in and out for over 10 years in the 60s. He didn't report to parole, and he was missing for the next 17 years, okay? And he was an expert of being on the run, right? And he knew how to conceal his identity. So that's the info that they was able to gather on him so far, right? And so, of course, they're just getting more questions than answers, right? And so they said, well, they had to start saying that he more than likely killed Tanya or whatever, right? And they were trying to gather more of her story and who she really was, right? And so basically, of course, they still had Michael on the news. So we get, because of Michael being on the news and the story about Tanya, whatever the case may be, we found this friend that she knew from high school where her mother calls her and says, Tanya's on the news. Well, Sharon actually is who they knew her as, right? But her mom tells her Sharon is on the news and they're calling her Tanya. And she's like, what do you mean? What are you talking about? What is she on the news saying? She's like, no, she's dead. So, of course, the friend is hysterical or whatever the case may be. And she calls the FBI hotline and she's like, I see this report going on and I need to come in and talk to y'all because this girl that y'all saying is Tanya, I know who she is and her name is Sharon Marshall, okay? She was my best friend in high school, okay? And so apparently they had basically met back in 1984 in Georgia. And, she talks about the type of person that Tanya was in school. There was another friend that was talking about her as well. They were saying how, popular, smart, all of that kind of stuff she was, right? And she had actually got a full scholarship to Georgia Tech as an aerosmith engineer, or to be an aerosmith engineer, I should say, right? But then she had to change her plans with that because she told her, I'm pregnant. And she was like, I'm not going to be able to go to school. And she was telling her, no, girl, you got to go to school. You can't change your plans. And she told her, no, my father's not going to let me, right? And they were talking about how strict her father was and how you really couldn't call the house like that. She had to call you, and she had this like full page picture that was in the yearbook and all of that kind of stuff. And so the same big picture that she had of her is the picture that she ends up bringing in with her to the FBI office. She was saying that they had moved not too long after that, and she had never knew what happened to her or got to see her until, basically now seeing her on the news, right? And she said she knows she had told her about her mother getting hit and dying, like, hit by a car and dying when she was like in second grade, and that, she was responsible for doing the cooking, the cleaning, and all of that kind of stuff. And so then, is like, now I'm freaking hearing this, like, what the hell is going on? So she go into the daggone FBI office or whatever, right? And she's like, she sat and talked with them for hours or whatever, right? And she starts telling them like, well, y'all are saying that, she's Tanya, but that's not who she is, okay? She was like, this is Sharon, honey. And she shows them all the photographs that she has of her. And she was like, that's not her damn husband. I don't know why y'all keep saying husband. That's her father. And she was like, his name ain't no damn, Clarence Hughes. He's Warren Marshall. So they like, no, what are you talking about? She's married to him. And she was like, no, you know what I'm saying? They are not married. They are damn father and daughter, okay? And they're like, no, miss, they're married. No, honey, they're married. And she's like, no, that's her damn father. So I'm like, Lord Jesus, don't tell me this girl married her father. All right. So they had two different stories, two different lifestyles, whatever the case may be, right? And she's trying to update them and give them as much information as she can. So now with that information, they start looking up Warren Marshall. They find that these two names was actually taken off of tombstones in Alabama. All right. They literally stopped on the way in New Orleans, stole these two names. Both of them got new aliases and got married. So the FBI is like, wait a minute, he married his own damn daughter. They were saying that this was unbelievable, child. So it was like one question leading to another. Every time you thought you had a little piece, honey, something else would come, right? And they had her as Tanya Hughes, Tanya Tadlock, Linda Williams, and now we getting Sharon. So they was like, who the hell is this woman? Because they cannot find really what the hell her right name is, right? So again, more questions than answers. So, we have the lady Sharon also saying how he basically was the one that sent her in there to start dancing in the first place, right? And he wanted her to basically sleep with people for $50. Okay. And so he basically wanted her to be prostituting for him. So I was like, dear Lord, every time, like I said, you think it couldn't get more disgusting, it did. We then had, we met the babysitter, right? And the babysitter was talking about how, she would babysit Michael. And she said basically Clarence would sleep in the front room, the living room, really, right? And the baby was in the second room. She said she thought it was weird that he didn't have a crib. And then Tanya's room was the back room, or Sharon's room was the back room, right? And she said there wasn't too many people that they used to let come to the house. They didn't have a lot of visitors besides letting her come near the babysit. And then this lady named Charlotte or whatever, or Cheryl, who was supposed to be gorgeous, dressing nice. She was Italian. She was driving this, Corvette. She had long black hair. They would let her visit. So she said one of the times when she was there babysitting, he ended up putting in this tape or whatever, and she could see that it basically was Sharon, his damn daughter, and the lady Cheryl on a beach without tops. So she says she looking like, why the hell you looking at a video of your daughter without a top on? What the hell is going on here, And she was like, when he realized that, he basically was like, oh shit, that was a mistake. And, they wasn't doing nothing. They was just there having fun or whatever the case may be. And, don't talk about this or whatever. So she was like, oh, okay, that's not a problem. She was like, oh, looking at her watch, like, what I'm saying, it's almost my curfew time. I gotta go. And she said, that always rubbed her the wrong way or whatever the case may be. So then the lady from the, strip place that she worked at, she said she had heard about the videos too, and she had spoke to Cheryl about them. And Cheryl was saying, oh no, he did take pictures and he do have videos, because he was saying he gonna send them to Playboy and make us famous. I said, girl, what? So she was telling her, like, stay away from him, girl. Something ain't right there. He can become violent. I don't trust it and all of that kind of stuff, trying to give her warnings, right? So keep her in the back of your mind. So then, she says Sharon says, she always knew that her father was a weirdo. She said her dad was out of town once, and she had basically asked her mom about spending the night down there, and the mom had said, don't tell your father. I said, girl, what? Nah. So when she get there, they ain't got no damn doors. They only got curtains, right? And she got all this negligee going on. And she was like, well, who you got that negligee from? It's nice or whatever. It's beautiful. But why do you have all of this? And she was like, my father got it for me. She like, your father? She was like, yeah, because it's pretty and he wants me to have nice things. But the next thing you know, while her friend is there, okay, he come walking in the room with a damn gun in his hand, yelling and screaming, all irate. They in the middle of changing. So right now she's literally in her underwears, and she like, it scared the mess out of her. She started crying as she was talking about it. and he's holding this gun in his hand, and he's like, what are y'all doing? And then he starts laughing and was like, I'll be back, and basically walks back out. And so Sharon talking about some daddy like to be silly sometimes. I said, no, girl, daddy crazy, all right? And so then he basically comes back in the room, orders them to lay down, puts a pillow over her damn head, and she did it or whatever, told her to put the pillow on her. And he raped the damn daughter, y'all, at gunpoint. And she talking about she never talked about it or told nobody till now. I said, no. Oh, so then the FBI, they continuing to dig, and they like, well, let's look into if this is a pattern. He's been raping people, all of this kind of stuff. He had been convicted in 1962 of raping a 4-year-old girl, y'all. Okay, he abducted her and sexually assaulted her. He was a convicted pedophile and all of that kind of stuff. He had raped again and attacked somebody else in the 1990s, all right? So he had a pattern of violence and abuse. And I'm saying, this is why I say everybody dropped the ball, because how the hell was this man continuously getting out of jail? How was he even able to get bail in the first place? You got people that's doing how much numbers for damn drugs, weed, whatever, like, what? And then they looking at the pictures that, is basically the picture that they show when you go to watch this on Netflix, that shows as a little girl, and they saying that's a typical picture of a child that's being abused, because you could just see like her eyes look dead. She don't have no smile, no nothing. So they say, well, they know she was 20 years old when she died in 1990, and she would have had to been born around 1969, 1970. They like, is he even her father? Because he was in jail from 1963 to 72, so he wouldn't be able to be her father. So they was like, it's a good chance that he's not the biological father and he kidnapped her too. I said, I know y'all freaking lying, okay? And so, of course, they still trying to find, you know what I'm saying? That means that he had kept her for 15 years, and they still trying to find Michael, and there's no sign of Michael or whatever. So again, they, bringing in whatever different help, whatever different officers that they possibly can. And they say, well, usually a person, like I said, that has used an alias before will use it again. So that's what they was hoping he would do. And eventually he does. And that's how they catch him, because he put in for a new driver's license, and they go and they arrest his behind, right? But no sign of Michael. Okay, they checked the house where he's living. They checked the 2 jobs where he started working at. Nobody ever seen him with a little boy. They look into the bus. Apparently he had rode the bus on his own. He tries to lie and say that he gave him to a rich damn family. And they was like, who rich? You know what I'm saying? That he was trying to say they went to some foreign country. It was all lies. So they don't find Michael, right? And he's refusing to talk. You got the Foster family still trying to go on the news and beg for Michael too, right? If anybody knows anything, if anybody could help, the FBI talks about how he's never really lost a case or whatever, and he felt they had a strong case, but he was like, still kind of felt half and half or whatever as well. And plus they were still mad because the only things they could go after him for was the kidnapping and the car theft, y'all. They could not go after him for Michael because there was nobody to say that he was going, and they couldn't go after him for Sharon, aka Tanya, either. So they was trying to get the maximum that they could get as far as him kidnapping the principal, him kidnapping Michael, and the theft of the car. I said, child. So her friend comes and testifies there at the trial. He gonna come up to her talking about some, which I don't even understand how he was allowed to come up to her. But he gonna come up to her and talk about, oh, you coming and you testifying and you're saying all of this stuff in the court because of what the FBI done put in your head and told you, right? And she was like, no, I'm coming up to the testify because I see what the hell you did, okay? And I want you to pay for it. I know what you did, and I remember them damn negligees and all of that kind of stuff, and that's what I'm here for, right? So she was saying that she was glad to face him and be like, I got your ass now, right? And she said she had butterflies the whole time or whatever, but he did get convicted. And as he was coming out, he talking about some F you, they trying to ask him where Michael at. He's like, F you, F Oklahoma and all this other stuff. Y'all son of a bitches and all of this stuff, right? Because it's everybody fault but him for being a damn nasty monster that he was. And so then they find these pictures, right? They find the truck that he stole, the principal's truck, and they find these pictures underneath, and it's all these pictures of Sharon and then of Cheryl, y'all, the one with the Corvette, and she's beat to pieces in the pictures, okay? They're both naked. These is like pornography pictures, whatever have you. And they was like, there's no way a person could get beat that bad and they're not dead. So they put it in like a data, for missing persons to see what comes up. And in Florida in 1995, they find 90% of these bones, remains, and they start testing those. They do a dental exam. They look at the photograph and see that the picture that he has with this scarf is the same scarf that was like tied around something, amongst the remains. They also got to speak to, I think it was the one that was the babysitter, and confirm that this was the same mattress, that's in the pictures as well. When they speak to the lady from the strip joint or whatever, I think her name was Sharon, she says that the last time she seen Cheryl, him and Cheryl was having a big argument. He had became obsessed with Cheryl or whatever, right? And he was questioning her. He was going off on her. He always wanted to know all her whereabouts and all of this kind of stuff. And she had to go outside and break up an argument between them where he actually threatened to take her life. And she had told her, like, go home. And she thought she went to her father. She never saw him again. All this time she thought she had went to her father. Baby, he had killed her. And then guess what? He had either ordered somebody, paid somebody, whatever it may be, to blow up their trailer. And then that's when they disappeared again and nobody knew nothing. She said it was one time that Tanya, a.k.a., Lord have mercy. She said it was one time she called her and said she was with, her father, and they was on their way to Florida. And so they like, okay, this is where them changing their identities came in at, because he knew they would be looking for a father and a daughter, not a husband and a wife, y'all. And that's when they stopped and got married. Made my freaking stomach sick, I'm telling you, yo. And so, she says they then went to Florida, right? And she was like, basically they was able to start, gathering together more information, whatever have you. And they was able to confirm about Cheryl. So even though he was already in jail, and originally they had Cheryl as a John Doe, then they was able to, get her name and know that it was her. So they went back again at him, right? Because they really wanted him to go down for murder, and they was still mad that they could not get him for Sharon's murder, but they was like, we getting him for somebody's murder. So now it went from him just being in there for the 52 years for him, having the death penalty now on the table, right? And then in 2002, we have this author come into play that's doing this book, and he goes back to interview him too. He's just trying to find out, one, where is Michael? And two, what was Sharon's real name, man? Like, at least let us know that, because if he don't give this information and it dies with him, they really are not going to have any way of knowing. And he starts to go into, how he was abused. He was a slave. His daddy had died. He had been born in 1943, and he had brothers and sisters, but he was the one that got sent to the Georgia Children's Baptist Home, and they had tortured him there, and the kids had attacked him and abused him and all this different kind of stuff. And so now when he's talking about all this different horrific stuff that he went through, making it about him, never answered the man's questions and pertaining to any of the other stuff he wanted to know. But he was like, you could kind of see how he became the monster that he ended up turning into. And so you have all these people emailing in and saying, we want to help. We want to find her. We can't believe that you didn't find her, and things of that nature. So by him doing this book, y'all, guess what? Sharon had a damn daughter, y'all. Sharon had a daughter. We found out that Sharon had 3 kids altogether. Now, mind you, when they kept saying, because he said, the author said he got a call and it said, would the DNA of the daughter help you? I said, what? So all this time when they was talking and the friend said, she got pregnant in high school and this is why she didn't go to Georgia Tech, I'm thinking Michael is that child and she ended up keeping him. But no, apparently Michael is the 3rd damn child. Tanya had the first pregnancy that she gave up for adoption. Then the second pregnancy, okay, is Megan, and she always knew she was adopted. She never felt weird about it until she discovered the book. And the third pregnancy was freaking Michael, okay? So she says once she found out and once she read this book, the more she learned, she basically was angry. She was sad. She just went through all different kind of emotions. She didn't know how the heck to feel, which is so freaking understandable. I can't even imagine, okay? And she said, you know, one hand, she's learning more about her and the type of person she was, and then on the other hand, she's seeing everything that she went through. She was having confusion and, you know, you name it. And so she basically was like trying to have some type of understanding, like no freaking girl should ever had to go through anything like that. And she is absolutely right? And she says, you know, she tries not to even think about that stuff. And so, you know, we hear her foster mom talk about going to New Orleans in 1989, right? And going in this attorney office, and it basically was Sharon and Clarence there. He was the one in charge. He was the one that did most of the talking, okay? And, you know, he basically made it clear they did not want to have this baby. He wanted money, all right? She said things seemed a little sketchy. He controlled the whole conversation and all of that. She was leery about it, but she wanted a child, right? And God was telling her this was it. And so apparently they gave birth 6 weeks later, right? And Megan was born. You know, they come to the hospital. She's asking her, do you want to hold her? And she's like, I can't. So she was saying, like, you know, they had some time where they was in a room by themselves, and she don't understand why she didn't open up to her. She didn't say, you know, help me something. And of course, it's easier to look back and Monday morning quarterback and make assumptions or whatever. But she says then when Clarence came in the room, they couldn't talk about it no more. It was like that was it, right? And so all they know is that the one that she had from high school was put up for adoption. Also Megan was New Orleans, and then we have Michael. And so I'm like, wow. So she tried to do this DNA test to see if, you know, they could find out any other info, whether it be from her siblings, whether her mom could have had siblings, any other family that could be out there, right? And so then they have the Center for Exploited Kids get involved. They are also trying to do research, but their envelope is literally thin, and they're using the envelope in the book that this author wrote, right, to help them to try to do some type of investigation. And then you have the FBI, you know, still trying to help, even though he was retired. But this was a case that always bothered him, that he always felt like he didn't have closure over. And so he sends two officers in, you know, and that are special agents, and they go talk to him, and he's trying to cry and, you know, put on these crocodile tears and make it about him again. But they like, no, they bang it on the table like, listen, tell us what you did with Michael. Tell us what happened. Tell us what you did with Michael. They say first he thought that he was their lawyers, and they was like, nah, we ain't here for you. We ain't your lawyers. He was like, well, who are you? They was like, we FBI. He was like, well, what are you doing here? We are here because we want to know what the hell you did for real with Michael once and for all, and we want to know what was, you know, Tanya, aka Sharon, real name. Where the hell did you get her from? We need answers, okay? So he said he stopped crying real quick, and he was like, started telling him how he had been a bus driver, okay? Because before he kept telling them it was none of their business, and he wouldn't answer. He would never say, you know, what happened, right? And so he basically started to tell them, you know, oh, well, you know, this bus driver or whatever, and this town and this place. And, you know, he starts to also say for the first time that he shot Michael twice in the back of his head, supposedly quick to put him out of his misery so he wouldn't feel anything. He told them a place to go look for him, and they said they searched all over that place 110%. They was digging up everywhere they could. Michael still, unfortunately, was never found. No remains for him was ever found. They searched for 2 days and not a damn thing, okay? So they wasn't too sure if any other information that he would give would be accurate, because he was known to lie. But, you know, they still wanted to take the chance, and they still want to see what they can find out. And so they was like, listen, all we want to know is who Sharon Marshall is. And he finally was like, because he loved basically talking about himself. And he was like, listen, he started jumping around telling different stories. And he's like, oh, well, y'all don't know about, you know what I'm saying, the fact that I was a bus driver and that I would be looking good wearing my suit. And he was like, yeah, I lived in Sherryville, North Carolina, whatever the case may be. And I had met this woman and the state had took her 3 kids. I met this girl that was named Sandy. And he started to say what her 3 kids' names was, right? And that, you know, the birthdays and all of that. And so they was like, well, how you know all this information and how you know their birthdays? Oh, well, I seen, you know what I'm saying, their birth certificates before. So then he said his name at the time was also Brandon Cleo Williams. So we get another damn name for him. And they was like, okay, well, we had never heard this before. So they was like, maybe this is something, you know. And then he's like, yeah, I ended up marrying her and all of this kind of stuff. And like I said, he supposedly knew the girls' names because of, you know what I'm saying, he saw the birth certificates. And so he got ahead and told them, you know, the girl's name is Suzanne. She was the oldest. And they said, well, who's that? He said, that's the girl y'all hear about. So they start digging into that or whatever, trying to see what they could find, y'all. And they find the marriage certificate. They find the birth certificates. They find that these is real. Honey child, honey child. Don't you know? They look up the information and her name was, I believe, Suzette or Suzanne Marie Savakis. And they find the mother and father's names, right? You have Sandra Francis, and you have Clifford Ray Savakis, right? Don't you know that both her parents was still living? I said, I know you freaking lying. I know you are freaking lying to me. And the mother sitting up there talking about some. Oh, the FBI showed up at my door and they showed me a picture of my little Susie. And I said, that's my daughter. Do you know where she is? And they let her know that she was killed or whatever the case may be. And she's like, oh, she was very smart. You know, she want to give background of how she was as a little girl. She talking about she was married straight out of high school, got pregnant not too long after that. And Suzette's father had ended up going into the military. He was in Vietnam. He didn't even get to see her until she was 6 months old. He was away when she was born. You know, he would have to go back and forth, and he would come on home for R&R for about a week, honey. And by the time he came back again, she had told him she wanted a divorce, left him, remarried, and had 2 more kids by the new husband, right? And so he never really got to be in her life like that. And you know, then she divorced that man, and then it was some big tornado that happened or whatever the case may be, right? That flipped her damn house, and the younger daughter's names was Amy and Allison. And so this supposedly gave her PTSD, right? And she went to DHS for help, and when she went to them for help, they took her kids from her and told her, you know, you need to go pray in church. I said, what? Okay, we're going to keep it going, though. And so when they took them, they called the father, right? Suzette's father. And they said, you know, we can't just adopt out one from the family. We want to keep the 3 girls together. So they said, is it a way that you can be able to take all 3? That's the only way we could do it. Either you get all 3 or you get none. And he couldn't do that, right? Because he says that he was living with his parents. He was 23. It was pretty rough on him. He came back with all kind of issues from being in Vietnam. He was drinking a lot and all of that kind of stuff. He took the weekend to think about it. And he was like, I can't do it. So here go Miss Mama talking about she was at the church. And Clarence come in talking about, oh, well, what's wrong? You know, what happened? Why are you crying? And she tell him, and he tells her, God sent him to her, baby, and he gonna come in and he gonna fix everything. He gonna marry her, and he gonna take care of her and her 3 girls. I said, I know this damn lady got to be lying to me. I know she got to be lying. So he goes with her to pick up the damn girls, and then she wanted talking about, and then he changed on me. No, he didn't change on you, sweetie. He was who he was, because you didn't even know who the hell he was, and you brought him into your house and around your damn kids. So apparently she went and wrote a damn bad check and got arrested for 30 days. And excuse me, she wrote a bad check for 7-Eleven, got arrested for 30 days, and while she was in jail, he ran off with the 3 girls. He originally took all 3, but somewhere down the line, he dropped them the hell off. The other 2, Amy and Allison, and he kept Suzanne and kept going. She gonna talk about she went to the police station for help, and they basically kicked her out of there. I said, I know you damn lying. Okay? And so God forgive me, because she could be telling the truth, and that's why I said everybody played a role in this, even though the main one that did all the dirt and was the monster is the biggest one. But it would not have been able to happen if the police and social services and everybody else and mama ain't dropped the ball too, as far as I'm concerned. And so when they get back to talking to the friend Sharon that she knew from the strip club, she said that's bull crap. She said, first of all, I was taken in 1976. I said, oh God. She said, and it took 5 years for her mother to get back, and her mother contacted everybody. Her mother contacted the senator, the mayor, the news. She was on TV. She wasn't playing that till she got her child back. She did everything she could as a mother should. And she said, that sounds like bull to me. I said, I know that's right. Then we get to the stepmother, and she ended up talking about that they reached out to the grandmother, to try to have a relationship. She said that didn't go well. She said she had this I don't care attitude or whatever, and basically had no interest in them whatsoever, or no interest in her granddaughter Megan whatsoever. And she was like, that to me was like, She said, you don't care. What kind of person is you? You don't want to know. She was like, I got a problem with that. And I said, yeah, I got a problem with that too. All right. Mama was giving me that she would have probably sold her damn kids. That's the vibe she was giving me. But nonetheless, moving on from there, we ended in 2003 with them. The writer actually went. As a matter of fact, it was June 3rd, 2017. He actually went, but he had started visiting the cemetery in 2003. And in 2017, he was like, come on, we got to fix this tombstone. So he called the daughter, and they got together. They had a memorial service there. The friends came. The cops that worked the case came. The author came. Her granddaddy came. Grandma was nowhere in sight with her raggedy behind. All right. And they put Suzanne Marie Savakis on her tombstone officially, the date of birth, the date of death, and said a little something, and they all talked about the things that they are going to remember about her. She was pregnant at that time when they got the gravestone, and when her son was born, she named him Michael after her brother that did not get to live out his name. And I was like, oh. And so, we still don't know what happened to Allison and Amy. They didn't say nothing about them, but it seems like she, kind of found a new family through her friends, and getting to know more about her mom through her friends. They was all there. And the grandfather, Suzanne's father, basically says, he regrets that he didn't get to know his daughter. He was going to make sure that he was there to know his granddaughter. And basically the FBI was like, this is somewhat of, a closure to as much as it possibly could be. He was like, we never got him for Suzanne, but we did get him. And so that basically was what the end of the documentary was, y'all. It was a lot. It was a lot. And all I could say is, may she rest in peace. I feel like they did drop the ball on her and her son. May they both rest in peace. And, probably the best things that she did was giving up her daughter, and apparently there was another son that was before that. We didn't get no update on him, but I wish them all the best. And y'all just tell me, like, if y'all watch this freaking documentary, what do y'all think? Am I right about mama, or am I, maybe judging a little bit too much? Okay, put it in the comments. Let's discuss. All right. Like, comment, share, subscribe if you are so inclined. Till next time, toodaloo.